Good morning. Welcome to today's e-video resource with the Minnesota Association of Realtors. My name is Chris Galler. This morning we're going to discuss Home Valuation Code of Conduct, which is also known as the HVCC, and some other appraisal difficulties in the marketplace and what's being done on your behalf to try and make it a little bit better, and some things that we're going to need you to do to make the situation better for our clients and customers. First is overall membership concerns, and what we're seeing are, of course, low appraisal numbers coming in the marketplace. We're seeing a number of appraisers that are working in areas they're not familiar with, the length of time to get the appraisal completed so that you can get the loan and mortgage for the property, delayed closings because of this delay or the low appraisal numbers, and in some cases a cancellation of the transactions, and last of all, the cost of appraisals to consumers in the marketplace today. That's mostly what's been discussed. There's also a few other minor issues. First one is low appraisal values. And some of this is market related, some of it has to do with fear by appraisers in the marketplace. Obviously, whenever homes have gone down in value or start to increase a little bit, there's always a difficult time finding comps. That is a major issue that appraisers have to look at. There's also some fear on the part of appraisers for being held accountable for future values of property. Meaning in the future, 2 years from now or a year and a half from now, if indeed the people go bankrupt, will that property still have the value that the appraiser signed today, and will they have taken enough into consideration? And we should understand that that is a concern that they have. We're not sure how overblown that concern may be at this point. There's tighter scrutiny on the appraisers out in the marketplace, and there is more liability to them. So that does add to the issue that they have. Another is that there are lender-mediated transactions in the marketplace causing some value difficulties. And that is if indeed home A that you have listed is in great shape, it's been tended by the homeowners very well, but 4 doors down there's a foreclosure that's sold, there's another rental property that's sold and being converted, and those sold for significantly less. What is the true value of home A if indeed you improve the other properties to this value? And that's really where appraisers are trying to say, well, this one sold for $50,000 less, but if we added $30,000 in repairs, it would be in just as good a condition. So they're trying to do that balancing act, and that is a unique feature of their jobs at this time. Next is geographic competency. And part of the HVCC allowed appraisal management companies, AMCs, to go into business. And in some situations, they're assigning appraisers appraisal jobs that are in geography areas that they're not familiar with. And these assignments cause difficulty. According to the Code of Conduct, the appraiser is supposed to turn down a transaction when it's not in a geographic area that they're familiar with. This, of course, brings about a number of questions about whether or not the appraiser in the area is competent or whether or not they've dealt with the kinds of issues. This becomes really important when you start to look at septic systems and wells, or people that maybe deal in more rural property now coming in and doing a residential metro property. So again, it's whether or not the appraiser has that. Some of the appraisers feel compelled to take these assignments even though they may not have full geography competency. And that's because they don't want to lose future business from the AMC in the future. And a lot of fingers are being pointed at the AMCs. And in fact, in Minnesota, we're going to look at some regulation of the AMCs just to make sure this isn't a difficulty. The next are closing delays, and these again have happened before. The low values in many cases are market related, and we hope that the people will start to look at it a little closer from the appraiser field, because we're seeing now about 1 in 4 transactions being canceled because of low appraisals. This is a major concern to the industry because oftentimes you have buyers and sellers' lives wrapped up in it, and that has to be understood by the appraisers, and they should take some input from the listing agent or buyer's agent as to the valuation considerations that the consumers made in putting that transaction together. What's being done? At the national level, and the NAR has been very active in trying to promote and put together what is called an 18-month moratorium on the regulations of the HVCC. There's a bill introduced. It's House of Representatives File 3044. That bill would put an 18-month moratorium in place, meaning that that would just be suspended. We're not getting rid of the rule. We're just saying we need 18 months to examine it and make sure everybody's up to speed before it's put in place across the market. In Minnesota, Representative Michelle Bachmann has signed on as a co-sponsor for that bill. In the FHA side, NAR has been working with the Federal Home Administration, and they will not implement the HVCC. That does not mean that private banks may not say, well, that's nice, FHA isn't going to do it. We're requiring it on all of our products. And there is a difficulty right now in the marketplace because some of the lenders own the AMCs, the appraisal management companies. So when you own a company, you're more likely to say, yeah, we're going to use our own company to do appraisals, and we don't care if FHA is not going to use the HVCC. On the state level, there's also something, or at the federal level, there's something called the Independent Valuation Protection Institute. This was set up so that, and it hasn't been initiated yet, it was just set up in the initial rulings, regulations, that if you had a problem with an appraiser, you'd be able to report them. And vice versa, the appraisers could report bankers or realtors who were putting undue influence on them. That whole piece of the HVCC has never been put in place, and NAR and the realtors believe that's an important piece to have in place before you initiate the rest of the regulations. In Minnesota, our federal political coordinators have been meeting with legislators. There was just a meeting with Representative Paulson's chief of staff last week. We've met with, obviously, Michelle Bachmann, who signed on to the bill, and our other FPCs are meeting with the congressional delegation. We're asking you as well to do some work. Talk to, if you know a congressperson, talk to your congressperson. Write your congressperson. Call your congressperson. On this screen, we'll have the link that you can use to find out who your congressional candidate is if you're not familiar. At the bottom of that page, you just type in your address and it'll give you a whole list of who represents you. You're looking for your House of Representative member in Washington, D.C. We've put together a letter as well, a letter that you can copy and paste. There are 2 letters, 2 different versions. You can change them, you can modify them, give examples. They're good sellers to tell our elected officials this is how it affects people's lives. And get your clients involved. This isn't just a realtor issue. This is a home buyer and home seller issue. Get them to take action with their congressional delegation. Thank you very much. We appreciate your being here today. We hope you'll have a great week.